Yeah. Okay, everyone. So we shall now commence the question and answer segment. Okay, so for all Zoom participants, please type your questions into the question box located within the control panel. And as for those of you watching this live streaming by Facebook, you may do so by typing your question through Facebook. Okay, so Dr. Debbie, are you ready for your first question?
Yes.
Okay, so the first question is coming from Maria. Okay, so Maria would like to know if a child was diagnosed to have two disabilities, such as Autism Spectrum Disorder and intellectual disability, which disability should be addressed first?
Okay, I usually will assess a child and will figure out what is the real situation. It's differ from one to another. There is no a big pointer or an arrow that can show which is going first. But for each of every child, they need love to grow. And no matter what is the disabilities, there is always an answer to it. I would really like to see Maria or by Zoom or doing an online consultation if she wants to, because each child has a very distinctive reason why they have the condition.
Okay, got that, yes. So Maria, hope that answers your question. And we'll move on to the second question. It's coming from Lilette Ramos. So Lilette would like to know, how does she recognize a kid with autism? Is there
Okay,
any?
so autism always have a lot of different manifestation. The first thing is that you can see clearly is the eye contact. Then the repetitive behavior that they do. Sometimes it could be with their hands, with their body, or they like to line up things. There's also a degree of sensory issues. So some kids might not like being touched, or some kids are tend to wrap certain things in the house over and over again. So actually, it's a combination of communication, sensory issues that happens in the child.
I see. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to the third question. It's coming from Amy Sharma. Okay, one of the autistic child at play school complains about urinary tract infection rather frequently. That's the feedback from the parent. Why is that so? Do you have any idea why does the child often complains about UTI?
A lot of times UTI can happen because there is infection that comes from the feces that goes to the urinary tract area. So you might want to see how they teach the child on cleaning himself or herself when she goes to toilet. And this happens more often in girls compared to boys. So we need to actually learn to be private detectives, learning to figure out what are the habits that the child has or the parent has, on what kind of educational thing that the teacher actually can teach the parents on how to manage this.
I see. Okay, well, I didn't know it's more prevalent amongst girls, yeah?
Because the back, the number 2 hole and the number 1 hole is very close.
Okay. Okay, so now moving on to the fourth question is from Maria Jeanette. Okay, Maria's son has diabetes and as well as autism. So her son is 17 years old, and she would like to know if you would be able to advise any particular nutritious food or diet to recommend to her child.
Okay, this is a very I would say quite complex, because I would really need to know what is the current food diary that the child is having, what kind of nutrition that he is having, when the diabetes was diagnosed, what are the treatment that was given, and what is the current situations that they have in their house. So I would not be able to tell us very specifically, but it's very, very important that every single person that come across me, I will always ask them to check the vitamin D level
Mm.
and um, give yourself a good dose of vitamin D.
Yeah, vitamin D, that's the way to go, yeah? Okay,
Yeah.
moving on to our next question is coming from Konika Saha. Okay, so the question is, all the teachers in a particular school may not be trained to teach autistic children. So she would like to know, should special training not be given to teachers for dealing with such children?
Okay, I have actually a very different idea about teacher and about special need education.
Okay.
Majority of time when we are dealing with children in the spectrum, we realize that this child actually needs a one-to-one attention.
Hmm.
And in school, whereby there are 40 students, 30 students in the classroom. The teacher, even though the teacher is highly trained, it would be a challenge to divide the attention of one person to 40 students, even with training. I would actually always recommend parents to start doing simple things that I put in the pointers earlier about this, the acceptance, seek to bond and celebrate. Just doing this actually and incorporate this in learning, the child actually can learn faster in an environment whereby without any noise or without disturbance. So it's actually, if we are going to talk about it, maybe we can sit here for 2 days. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you so much for asking.
yeah. So I guess parents, you really need to be very patient. Just remember these three keywords: acceptance, seek to bond, and of course celebrate. Okay, so we
Yeah.
have six questions coming from a Zoom participant, as Lalita Makesh. She would like to know, okay, for example, if a child has an obsession of keeping things in the hand, how would she be able to help the child to do away with the habit, to overcome this habit? Yeah. What do you
Okay,
think?
so as we have learned that the children have habits because they wanted to help themselves.
Oh,
If the thing,
uh-huh.
because the behavior that they actually have is something like this. When you are going to go for an interview, for instance, Annie, if
Okay.
you want to go for interview, then you will feel a bit nervous.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you will pace around in the room before you actually calm yourself down.
No sweat.
The pacing is very important because then it really makes yourself able to center yourself.
I see.
And
So,
you are a normal person without neuroinflammation. Can
mm,
you imagine a child with neuroinflammation? Their need of pacing is higher than you.
mhm,
So the child's habit of keeping thing in his hand, as long as this thing is not rotten or does not harm his health or does not harm himself, like it's a knife,
mhm.
I will be okay because then it helps him or her. We
Wow.
should not take it away from the child.
Mhm. Yeah, as long as the object is not harmful, I guess, yeah, parents should just let the child hold on to the item in the hand. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very good advice there. Okay, so moving on to question number 7, it's also from a Zoom participant. Okay, Maimuna Arfa. So Maimuna would like to know, can an autistic child consume milk? As
I
because,
would, okay, so one of the most inflammatory food
ah,
is dairy, and it is milk. Now there are more studies showing that cow's milk is not actually a good nutrients for human, and especially for those in the spectrum, because what happened is that the milk can go into the bloodstream and turn into a calcium morphine, which is something unlike morphine.
Wow.
and cause the child to be less perceptive in things around them.
I see. So this is more for cow's milk. How about goat's milk? Would it has the same effect?
Goat's milk, quote unquote, is less harmful, but still it has casein. Yeah.
I understand that. Yeah. After all, both are
And those milk, other milk that, you know, I talk about this because I am also on the path many years trying to figure out what milk my kids can drink, right? So even the milk, the alternative milk, the rice milk, the almond milk, the hazelnut milk, all these milk are packaged with sugar.
Mm,
So it is not a very good thing to give. And most of the soy that we have is genetically modified.
that's right.
Yeah, so it is not something that I would recommend. Actually, if you are not vegetarian, you can have bone broth
Mm,
and you don't need to drink milk.
yeah, that's
So there
right.
is another alternatives out there that can replace milk.
Mm, good point there, Dr. Debbie. Okay, so moving on to question number 8. It's coming from Manali Shah. This person would like to know exactly, some of your calming strategies that you use on your boys. Yeah, would you be able to share like 1 or 2 calming strategies?
Okay, so for the first one, he's into anime. He's onto Japanese manga.
Okay.
So when I'm with him, then we will discuss about it, and we will go on and on about the kind of situations or scenarios that happens in that manga or in that anime.
Okay.
And my second child, he likes drawing and he likes guitar,
Wow.
and we will be doing something. He will be doing his thing, I'll be doing my thing, but in the same room. The thing is that we need to understand there are periods of time when the child is overly stimulated. And this time, we should not actually try them to do something. Only when they are connecting with you, only when they are looking at you, asking you to do something with them, then you are doing it with them. We should wait for the clue. We should not intrude them. We should not tell them, or even some parents, you should do this now. It doesn't happen that way, because if your child have chicken pox, you will not ask your child to do multiplication table while they are lying in bed recuperating from chicken pox. But when your child have neuroinflammation, they are basically unwell. So you need to wait for them to say, okay, now I can cook a bit. You can give me something. But you don't try to impose yourself on them. Wait, that is the key.
Yes, yes. Patience is the key, everyone. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Manali, I hope that answers your questions. Okay, moving on to the number 9th question. It's coming from Aisha Fidros. Okay, she would like to know if you can share any tips, with her to encourage a non-verbal autistic child to speak.
It is if the child have sound,
The sound.
even the then when the child making the sound, you will be the detective to figure out what this means, and you will appreciate every sound that comes from the child. When the child likes to do something, you can just do that the same, like the child wants to put all the books in the house in the line. You will
Yeah.
not quickly pack all the books back into the bookcase. You are going to take another book and line the books on the floor together with the child. I assure you, after some time, the child will eventually look at you. And during the time when the child look at you, then you can really appreciate the connection and tell the child, I think you are the most wonderful child in the world. Thank you for looking at me. So you need to be able to share your feeling, positive feeling about the connection that happened. And we will be able to encourage more of this in the future.
Mhm. Okay, so moving on to question number 10. It's coming from Gaia Jose. So basically, Gaia's child is 2.5 years old. He is autistic and was diagnosed during his first year. So after some vigorous home therapy, he started with one followed by two or three words. And he would try to understand Gaia and Gaia's husband. So the question is, he is sometimes throwing tantrums and also during the night. Is there any advice you could share with Gaia on how she can manage that tantrums incidents?
Okay, when I first started in my journey, we have a very rigorous treatment on our second child, especially
Mm.
because we wanted to make sure that he will be able to reach a certain age, whereby a lot of experts say by 6, if he doesn't talk, he will never talk. So we put so much effort to get him to talk before 6. So we put on many hours for him to learn, and this rigorous treatment actually got him to say a few words.
Okay.
But what happened is that he also became from a happy autistic boy to an unhappy autistic boy.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that pressure, I was talking about timing.
Okay.
When we do this rigorous training, we do not wait for the child. Many of the scenarios is that the child is being bombarded whether they want or they don't want, because timing is the essence. You need to have a certain hours in the day whereby the child is being trained. It's totally disrespectful, because if the child is unable to cope with the situation they're in, and we come with all the bombardment, of course the result will be meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
So I suggest to pay more attention to what the child is telling you, whether the child had it enough or the child is enjoying themselves. If they enjoy themselves when you're doing your rigorous treatment, you can continue. When a child is crying and screaming, you do not continue with that kind of situation. I think as a parent, I want to tell you something. Parents, you know more about your child than anyone in the world. You are the best advocate for your child. Have that confidence, and if something that you see make you feel uncomfortable, please act on it.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the next question. It's coming from Dorothy Ortega. Okay, Dorothy has a very interesting question. She would like to know, what is your day-to-day routine as a mom with children with ASD? Like, yeah, maybe you can.
Okay, I want to tell you, I have a hack. The
Okay.
hack is the child's nanny. We have a nanny for the past 13 years, and she's the most amazing, wonderful person in the world. Okay, so I woke up in the morning, then after that I go to the center, and then I will see clients. Then when I came back home in the afternoon, then I will say hi to my second son, and he will say hi and he will run, and I will try to see when he has the mood to see me, and I'll sit with him when he wants me. Then I will also spend time with my 3 other children.
Okay.
Emmanuel is a teenage now. I need to persuade him and get to bribe him with stories or something that might interest him to get out of his room.
Mm-hmm.
But my younger kids, number 3 and number 4, they are very cute, and I really love spending time with them. And of course, at the end of the evening, then I'll be having dinner with everyone, and my husband will be there, and I will be talking with my husband, and I will start checking my emails and my phone and everything else, and I sleep pretty late. Okay, so that is a very truthful answer.
That sounds like a very, packed routine you have there, Dr. Debbie.
Yes, yes, it's very fulfilling because I do what I like, I
Okay.
do what I'm passionate about, and
Yeah,
in the same time, I have the privilege to share about my life to so many people. So I like doing what I'm doing.
wonderful. Hope that answers your question, Dorothy. Okay, so I've got the next one coming from a Zoom participant. It's from Khalid Aziz. Okay, Khalid would like to know how can he make a child study without having to force the child to do so.
Make the study, make the subject so amazingly interesting that there is nothing in the world can be more interesting than that.
Oh, that's gonna be quite challenging. Yeah.
It is not. If they think that calculus is the most interesting thing,
Okay.
then make yourself, if you are like really love something, share that love with the child.
Hmm.
If you are a biologist and you think plants is super cool, then you share about it with the child. But don't try to force them doing something they don't want.
Yeah.
If you want them to like it, then first you need to like what they like first. It's the fundament of making relationship. It is like when you want to befriend someone, when you want to be a girlfriend or a boyfriend of someone.
Okay.
You need to know what that guy is interested with. You need to know what the girl is interested with before you actually wanting them eventually to like what you like.
Yes.
You need to have that connection first.
Yes.
Build the connection before the learning. I assure you that when you are interested with something, you are more learning faster than ever. Some people learn like foreign language. Maybe in Singapore, we have mother tongue. Some people learn Chinese for 15 years and they would say, I don't really speak Chinese. But some people go to China, spend a few weeks, months there, and suddenly they sound like a fluent speaker because they are very interested with the language. So it is not about how you force someone to learn. It's how you make the object of the subject interesting for that person.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Debbie. Okay, everyone, I've got time for a couple more questions because we're running out of time. So please keep your questions coming. We'll move on to the next question. It's coming from Diane Afinidad. Okay, so Diane would like to know what specific type of intervention or therapy help did your children get that you find was most effective on them?
The relationship therapy. So
Intervention.
it is the one that I was talking about, the love-based mindset therapy. So now there are things out there
Okay.
called sunrise therapy or global autism solutions therapy. And this is something that got to do with parents learning to love themselves, parents learning how to love their children. And only with this kind of connection, then the child will want to learn something.
Hmm.
So this is the most effective, not by rigorous training. Rigorous training might produce a certain thing, but I would assure you that there is no relationship formed in rigorous training.
Understand. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to our final last two questions. Okay, yeah, this is coming from Priya Dashini. Okay, Priya would like to know, are there any brain-based exercises that can actually help autistic children and children with learning disorders? And can you also recommend some motor exercises?
Yes, actually there are so many studies out there that shows the exercise helps with to recover brain injuries.
Okay,
In a lot of the kids that has neuroinflammation, long years of inflammation can actually lead to brain injury.
wow, okay.
And this actually, one thing that I would like to, of course, in my center, I do a lot of nutritional help for them, which actually remove some handicaps. But for those who doesn't have access to it, exercises is good. Exercise increase the consumption of oxygen. The there are more oxygen in our body, in our brain, then the ability of the recovery is higher. So it is important to do exercises. If the child can do is more high functioning, you can also do yoga or meditation kind of exercises, because this actually very calming, and it reduces a lot of inflammation.
Okay, thank you so much. And this is going to be our final question for today. It's coming from Chris Gorion. Well, Chris would like to know if, how would he know if a child has a tongue-tie problem? So basically, his son is pre-verbal, but babbling. So he is not really able to communicate much. And he is 6 years old and has been going through some speech therapy. Is there any tips you can share with Chris?
Okay, so a lot of times we thought that it is the tongue that has issues, but a lot of times what actually happens is that there might be a certain neuroinflammation that happens with the child, and this can prevent the child from speaking, because the frontal part of the brain is the area whereby the speech coming from. And if that area is affected, then the child's ability to speak is hindered. You can start with doing the when the child is doing something, try to connect with the child. Make yourself available and make yourself connected with the child, and make the child wants to say something to you. If you are receptive and the child is thinking of you as a person, okay, I know now this is my mother, and my mother likes to see what I'm doing, or she is not scolding me when I am doing what I like to do, or she's helping me, she is very helpful, then the child is more willing to say something, to convey something. And during these exercises, you are training the motivation of the child.
Mhm.
When the child is motivated to say something, there's nothing that can stop the child from speaking.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Debbie.